Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do the head in a separate file. So I have a couple images here. I've got a 3D image, and let's find the other one. There's the head. So I just found a head, turn around, and adjusted it in Photoshop and tried to get everything to kind of match up. And as well, if I go, let's see if I can open up the, no, that's the original. Let's go large icons. Which one's up? Oh man, right, this one. So yeah, just to get a sense of what it is, it's always nice. You can sculpt your ZBrush out like a roughed out 3D version just to get a sense. You can see his brows stick out and kind of how the eyes fit in the head and all that. It really helps. Let me go back to the 2D version here. So again, this one is it's 901 by 600. So my standard thing here, I'm going to create a polyplane. There's a button there. I'm not going to bother going through the thing. So that polyplane, I don't like these divisions, so I'm just going to I don't know why the height is 50 by 50. It should be 1 by 1. And the divisions should be also 1 by 1. So let's crank that down. And I know I need to scale X here 9.01, and I need to scale Z6. So that's 901 by 600 divided by 100 each. So there's the reference plane. Right mouse click. Let's move it up here. Right mouse click and hold down to assign. This pen is going to drive me crazy. So down to assign favorite material Lambert, and color, map button, file is the type, source it, and we want Homer head. And there it is, except I can't see it, so you just have to hit 6. It needs a 90-degree rotation in X. And then I'm just going to, oops, look, I can't see it. Why? Because I haven't hit 6 yet in this view. There it is. I need a side one as well. So Control D duplicate, 90-degree rotation in Y on that duplicate one. This becomes the side reference geo. And this one becomes the front reference geo. And then I want to center each on their respective planes, so the side one can move forward so that he's kind of centered on the midline, the grid line. And I'm going to also put the pivot in the middle there as well, so I'm just going to hold down X to snap that back. And the front one, I'm going to do the same thing. I should have had a guideline on here, but that's okay, so I will eyeball it. And don't forget, we have Alt and the arrow keys will nudge in Maya, so left and right to give a, I think it's a default is 0.1 Maya units per hit. So you can, you don't have to use the move tool. You can use Alt and the arrows up, down, left, right. Works best in an orthographic view, not perspective, because what is left and right in perspective? And yeah, it's about right. And then again, the pivot, just move that back. So hold down X, drag it back. Insert, and now I can make them a little bit bigger. So select both of them, scale them up. How big? I don't know. Mine's, I don't know, about that big, I guess. Doesn't have to be too large, just a little bit bigger than what it was. So I've gone like X is 48, Z is 32. I guess I've scaled it up roughly about 5.5 times. Okay, so that's it. So they need to disappear. So the front reference goes back in Z, and by back I mean negative values, so negative Z and negative X, so they're out of the way, still facing the camera. They should all go into their own reference layer, so this is going to be the front reference layer. So front reference underscore display layer, and of course side reference underscore display layer, and those need to be referenced. Okay, so yeah, so in their layers, referenced, so we can't grab them. Everything seems to be set up. So now it's time to model. So I'm going to start with a cube. So I'm going to just create a cube right here. There's a button on my shelf. There it is. I'm going to go in the side view. I'll get rid of the grid here so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. Control 0 X-rays my object. I'm going to scale that up. And then I'm going to just start sizing it. So I'll just grab these verts and just move them sort of roughly into position where I think, you know, it's the shape of his head, or thereabouts. Not much I can do at this point. It's just kind of rough it in. And then maybe do something similar from the front view. Again, I'm going to turn off the grid. And yeah, there, you know, maybe the chin comes in a little bit thinner, right? So we start to see some of the planes on the side of his face. Let's bring the front in a little bit more, say, and the back could probably come in a bit. Let's open this back here. And, you know, not much I can do. So if we look in perspective, that's whatever, right? Okay, so that's it. So what I want to do now is, you know, I want to start rounding it. So what I need for that is I need a vertex right in the middle of each of these faces, basically, so that I can start to round off the shape of his head. So I'm going to go into object mode. And so green mesh, and I'm just going to go to edit mesh and say add divisions. And all that does is it takes each face and cuts it horizontally and vertically, so one face becomes 4 faces. And critically what it does add is this center line here. So if I go in there and grab this edge, double click it, and then scale it up. So I'll just do this in the side view. If I hit R and scale it, now I can see where the center line is and then where the side verts are. So now it's just a matter of moving these verts around and starting to shape his head a bit better, or trying to shape the verts so that we get a better shape of his head. Excuse me. So I'm going to keep going. Can pull this up, pull these in a bit maybe. This can go under his nose. At this point here, we want to hit landmarks. He doesn't really have any, but he does have this line sort of where his cheek would be, kind of the middle of his eye. He has this point where his ear comes off of the side of his head, and the rest of these we're just shaping. It's about as good as we can get it. And then what we do is, like, say I grab those verts where they're touching his ear, and I want to match that in the front view. So are they exactly where his ear is? Maybe they could come in a little bit. And then I want to do the same for, say, this point here. It should be right on the line, and it's not. So let's scale it in until it is. So now it's touching this line, which should match in the side view. And there's not really much else. Maybe the chin here can come in a little bit and kind of again grab that line that's moving around. Trying to think what else we can do. No, that's about it. So we can look in perspective and we can see if we've got anything else we can kind of adjust just by looking at this and going, well, it doesn't quite look like, you know, a Homer head, so maybe we'll scale the front of his face in a bit more or something. But really, there's not much we can do. So at this point, maybe just scale these in a bit. We need more geometry. So great. So into object mode, and instead of doing the add divisions, which is what we did last time, I want to add divisions. Sure, I want to cut each face into 4 faces, but when I do it with add divisions, I have to go in and move all the verts because it just leaves every face. It just cuts every face perfectly. It doesn't do anything to help round. So we're going to do a mesh smooth, which does 2 things. It does cut each face into 4 faces, but it also rounds the vertices. It kind of averages their positions, and that saves us quite a bit of work. So if I just un-X-ray this, right, we're getting a rounder head as well as more geometry. So in the side view, I'm going to X-ray it again and really just scale it up. So hit R and just start to scale, and I guess we'll have to position it a little bit, scale it up a little bit, position it a little bit, maybe, you know, it's kind of weird. Maybe it needs to get a bit fatter. Don't want to do too much asymmetrical scaling, but so there we go. So now what we've got is we've got this line here, which matches pretty much where his mouth goes. We've got another line, that's the original line we had under his nose. And then we've got a new line here, which we're going to bring down and match kind of to the center of his eye line. So sure, let's do it. So right mouse, what I'll do is I'm just going to grab this edge loop going all the way around, and I might just drag that down. Now I might have to rotate it a little bit because we want to kind of want to keep it in the midline there. So I'm just trying to save myself some work moving verts around, and by like grabbing whole edge rows and doing it that way. But when it comes right down to it, I can't really avoid it. So middle of his eye, and this one will actually be, you know, right on the pupil. And then we want to, you know, we don't want to leave this sloppy kind of change in direction here. So we know that point goes where his ear is touching, and then we can start to kind of guide the rest of these down. So we get a nice smooth transition. This will come down and touch his this stubble line or nasolabial fold. This one would go back, and this one would go back, and these ones would kind of sit under his chin. And this one can go back a little bit. This one could sit right on the corner of his mouth here. These are going to come back, touch his lip, and you know, so we've got this feature now, these landmarks, this line going around, got roughly the center of his eye going back, and we've got where his ear touches. And so now we can go to the front view and check and see if it's the same there. So I've selected the one right on his pupil, and if I come into the front view, well, first of all, I'm looking through his head, so I see the back faces, right? I see these edges from the back of his head. So I've selected these verts. Those should be right on his pupil, so those definitely need to go wider, but it's confusing. I can't tell necessarily what's front, what's back, and even if I could, it's still really confusing. So I'm going to go to object mode, and I'm going to use my BC button that I have here, which is backface culling, and you can see it gets rid of half the geometry. So all the faces that don't face towards the camera, all the faces that are facing away, like on the back of the head, Maya doesn't draw them on the screen, so it really cleans up our view. So you need to hit that BC button, and if you don't have one, first question is, you know, why? Because you should, because we've done this a few times. So if you need to do it now, you should. So we go display polygons, and the very first command is backface culling. So hold down Control and Shift, click on that, it'll make a button on your current active shelf, so make sure you have the right shelf up. And we do this on and off quite a bit, so especially at this stage of the modeling, so you really need to have a button. Okay, so that makes things a bit easier to see what's going on, and then we can start to maybe adjust a bit. So we'll go in here, and it's going to get a bit tricky because if I select a vert in the side view, it won't select the vert on the other side because the backface culling is on. So from the side view, I can't see the other side. So we just have to make sure that we grab them manually. So I select one, and then I can grab the next one. But that one looks pretty good. So let's go to the next one. That's this one. That can maybe come in a bit. Here's the next one. So that one. So that should scale out to touch the line because it's on the line. There's one there. That's actually on the line, so that's fine. That actually needs to come in. And then we've got these ones. So we want to make sure they're, and it's a bit weird, this doesn't quite match here, so I'm actually just going to take some license and just maybe bring those up a bit. So even though it looks like here they're, yeah, see, that's the problem. This line goes behind his nose in the front view, but in the side view it goes under his nose. So which one is right exactly? We don't know. So I'm going to have to maybe find a happy medium. Let's look at the ones for his eyes. So oh, there's the ear one. Is that still in the right place? No. So let's scale that in. What's this one? Yeah, that's probably okay. What's this one? Yeah, maybe that can go out a bit. Yeah. And then let's grab both of those. Let's actually move this just a bit further down the road. So we've got one in the middle of the eye. That's pretty close. This one should be further out. So let's grab those, scale that out. And this one's actually in behind the eye. So that needs to go out quite a bit. So we're getting a weird, I guess, shanking over like that, but I think we can live with that. Yeah, so again, pretty much all the landmarks that we have, we've used up in the front and side views. You can see these are kind of peeling away. Yeah, that could work. Let's maybe bring these in. Let's see what those ones are. Those two are there on the side of his head, so that's about right. So let's see what we got in perspective here. So back in object mode, just on X-ray so I can see what's going on a bit better. Seems my X-ray is off. Broken again. Oh, my hotkeys are broken. Okay, so it's looking like something. It's getting there, but really what we've done is we've just made some lines for the mouth, under the nose, and the middle of the eye, and now we're set up to start doing some of the other loops. So maybe the mouth loops, the eye loops, and maybe even start thinking about extruding out the nose and that kind of thing. So that would be the next step. So I'm gonna call it here. I'm gonna freeze transformations on the geometry. I'm gonna delete the history as well, and we should probably call this head geo. And I think we're good to go. So save that out. I'll figure out why my hotkeys aren't working, and then we come back and we'll add some detailed mouth, eyes, and nose loops.